Let's see, we have 7 out of 8 members here. Dave will not be here, he's at a River Trail Subcommittee meeting. So, but we have 7 out of 8, which is a quorum, so I will call the meeting to order. And we can start with the treasurer's report, which Rick sent around early on in the month.
You mean the minutes?
I mean, treasurer's report, the minutes. Any comments on the minutes?
Well, go ahead and get them accepted, and then I've just got a question.
Yeah, there was just one change that Susan caught in the Selfridge property we were talking about is 38.4 acres instead of 34.8. So.
It
Okay.
really was dyslexic. Anyway, because it's almost 40 acres.
Motion to accept as edited.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Just a quick question on the trails, wherever.
Okay.
Trail Subcommittee.
Yep.
And we said something about the DCR attitude maybe changing in areas not near outlets to the watershed.
Their
Does
attitude
that-
changing, you mean?
Attitudes
Yeah.
are changing.
Yeah.
Does that mean the intake down at, the Ware River intake down at 122? Is that
Yes,
the area
yeah.
that they're
Yeah,
concerned
yeah,
about?
they're very sensitive about any kind of trails in that immediate
And further
area.
up here, they may
Yeah,
be
so
shifting a little
like,
bit.
like a specific area would be, what's the name of that hill up beside Dave Marsh and Cindy?
Yeah, I forget the name of that.
Meyer, there's a good size, there's a lot of land up behind them that's part of that thing, so they're more amenable to changes
Rice Hill?
in that area. What?
Is it Rice Hill?
Yeah, Rice. There's a good sized hill up in behind there that I guess has got a really nice view from it, et cetera. Yeah, that kind of thing. So,
Just curious.
yeah. Treasurer's report, Susan sent around actually.
I'm
some
gonna try to
people-
do it in this format all the time, because that way we kind of can see when the hay comes in and everything,
Yeah.
it's all in one place. So
Yeah.
Kelly can, even though some of them are on different pages, she can put this together each time, so.
Yeah.
It's nice to have some consistency, but no changes.
Okay. All set with that. Let's see, relative to whole business, we will be getting out to probably link before our next meeting and set a date for getting over there, but we get the materials and stuff ready to do that. It's a one-day effort, half a day effort, couple hours effort at most to do that. So we'll let people know when we're gonna be over there. I know Dave Marsh was interested in going over and just seeing that process.
If you've got enough stone, throw a little bit at the entrance to that parking area. That turns into a mud bog right off the road.
Okay, all right. Any update on Destiny's Garden process there?
Yeah. So, she has been approved from Girl Scout Council. She had a Zoom meeting with the Gold Committee Award, Gold Award Committee, sorry, let's try to say that correctly. And, they have approved her to start her project. They suggested that she put together a date to do the initial clearing and get the school involved to try to, get some more maybe community, like students or something to help clear. the trail, to work with you guys, you know, cause she had told them that you guys are willing to help and they wanna see more kids interact with it possibly. So her ask of the committee is good dates to do, the trail clearing. She has a couple, there's a few dates on like April vacation or, May 22nd, 23rd, 28th, 29th. I don't know what you all wanna do, but she just kinda wants a game plan, so that way she can hit the school up, so they can get it out to the students to see if there would be some students that want to join in for community service purposes. It's like a win-win kind of thing.
What's the date of the school vacation?
The April, she put down 18th and 19th, I think it's like, that's the first 2 days, she's got a couple things at the end of the week, but I think that's like Monday and Tuesday. I wanna say, let me double check.
Cause
my
you'd have
calendar.
more chance getting the kids those days, correct?
Well, that's what I'm saying, it's, the other ones are weekends. And realistically, we're also gonna put it out to our Girl Scout troop as well, to see if any of them want to come. Yeah, the 18th and 19th are Monday and Tuesdays, and the other ones, the 21st, 22nd, 28th, and 29th of May, she has wide open on the weekend, which are both Saturdays and Sundays.
Okay.
So,
Are these kids gonna come with minders? We're talking chainsaws and brush cutters here.
I have like,
Uh,
no, but they can help if stuff gets cut up, move it off to the side. They can be like clean up afterwards. It's not gonna be like 400 kids. We'll be lucky if we get 2. Because seriously, I'm not even gonna like overestimate this. But, you know, cause there could be a cap. She could say 5 students, whoever signs up,
First.
yeah, can get the community service on this day. You know what I mean? It could be something like that. I do have a whole bunch of loppers that we can like do small brush, but yes, chainsaws and stuff would not be done by children. That's a bad idea. Let's not do that.
You
So, but to move the stuff after it's cut
Yeah.
and to help get it out of the way, teenagers can do that. You know, that's not a huge
Okay.
thing.
Well, I wasn't sure what age kids we were talking about.
Yeah, we're talking about teenagers. Yeah, like.
All right, they've got enough sense to stay clear.
Yeah. I would keep them. I'd be there too. I'd be helping herd this. Cause yeah.
Kinda like what
somebody's-
we did on that trail work.
Yeah,
up
when
at
we were
Mount Chuck.
clearing, yeah, you guys went ahead with the stuff
Tools.
and clearing with and we were cleanup crew behind with walkers and getting the small stuff and moving it off to the side.
Okay.
Are you okay with the trail, potential trail you marked out already on that? In other words, would we be doing that at the same time?
Well, shouldn't,
I think that's what we're talking
Yes,
about.
like
Shouldn't-
clear the whole thing because, yeah, that's part of the process is clear the whole trail.
The loop.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's
So
that whole
but we're
loop.
my question is, we're settled on that trail, is that?
Yeah, I am. And
Yeah,
if
Destiny was.
She was happy with it.
Thought it
then-
was fine,
Yep.
yeah.
Yep. So it's already flagged.
well, shouldn't we have a focal point from our committee on,
That's me.
heading that up? I mean, relative when they're out there on that day, I mean,
That's
just.
him.
Yeah. So is that what the plan is?
Yes.
Yeah, so you be there to coordinate the
Yep.
cutting and trim, okay, good. I just wanted to make sure that one of us was there to
Yep.
coordinate what was done, okay, sounds great. Any other comments on that
No, I
effort?
guess we need to see if we pick a couple dates here
Yeah.
while we're all here.
What were the main
18th,
weekends
19th
again?
works for me.
21st, 22nd, and then 28th and 29th, which that, I think is Memorial Day weekend.
What's the
Oh,
time
that's
frame
probably not so good.
you think it'll take?
I don't know, what do you think, half a day?
Yeah, we're just cutting like
So
small
is
stuff.
18th to 19th
That's April.
April, that's
is
a
that
Monday and a
Monday,
Tuesday.
Tuesday?
Yeah. I mean, we could shoot for one and then have a rain date for the second, you know, like 18th, and then if it's raining, you know, cats and dogs, we don't wanna be out there, you know, playing in the
Yeah.
monsoon. You know, we can have the 19th as a backup, or like I said, the 21st, 22nd, same thing, a rain date. I always like a rain date, just in
Yeah,
case.
and
'cause
it's already built
it's like
in.
Thunder and lightning out, nobody wants to play out there.
How about other folks, well, if anybody else is interested? with
I'll
others.
also-
The 18th
Good morning,
with the
yeah.
19th rain date, because it's,
thing after lunch or a morning thing?
Morning.
Morning, okay.
And
I-
maybe we could arrange lunch.
Is that the day after Easter?
Yeah.
Oh.
April, yes, that'd be the day after Easter.
Egg salad sandwiches.
Yes. Everybody is working off the ham, okay? All
I'm
those
serious.
desserts you ate yesterday, come on, let's
I
go.
was thinking chocolate, but ham too.
Yeah.
Yeah, if we try to plan it early in the week, then if it happens to rain both days, we still got,
We
is
still have.
Yeah, there's still
Time in the
something
next
we
couple
could
weeks.
possibly, yeah.
that okay with everybody?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. 18th with a rain date of 19th.
All right, what time frame do you want to,
9 to 12?
what time?
Oh, I was just suggesting 9 to 12.
Yeah, well, it'll be more than 3 hours. But,
With a
yeah,
quick break and
9
then maybe a couple hours
9 to 2
after.
or
lunch.
something.
9 to 2, bring a lunch, kind of thing,
Yeah.
maybe?
Yeah,
Okay, 9 to 2,
we
bring
can have a
lunch.
picnic by the pond over there. That'd be
Yeah.
nice.
Bring lunch and bug spray. Lunch and bug spray. That'd
Oh,
be
that's
great.
right, the mayflies.
Yeah.
They won't be out yet.
Oh, they'll
April.
be out.
That shouldn't be
No,
bad.
if it's a warm day.
Yeah.
I've already
I
seen
don't know.
mosquitoes.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
All right, so we're all set on that? Any update on the kiosk plans?
Seriously,
Yeah,
then
well, I
why-
just got a email from yesterday, they're shipping out the proof print,
Mm-hmm.
for me to check colors and that kind of stuff. And then, if that looks okay, then they'll move on to the actual files.
Mhm.
I'm expecting delivery probably about the end of May.
All right, so we have another meeting, so we can, there's Jesse.
Yeah, we won't need to schedule work until,
Hey, Jesse.
definitely not before the May meeting.
Okay, that sounds good. See, we started discussion on the land priority topic, and the open space members met. I know, Mike, you want to be part of that, but we were just trying to have a meeting just to get ourselves organized what we were doing. So, Rick, you want to talk to that?
Yeah, so Tim, Bob, and I just got together on the phone last week, this week?
Last week. Oh, actually, it
It's all
was this
running
week, that's
together.
right.
It
It was this
Yeah.
week,
Right,
yeah.
it wasn't-
And in anticipation, we were gonna be getting input from you guys on what our priorities should be. We thought that just for us to get started, we need to figure out how we were going to, what rating method we were gonna use, so that when you guys said, yeah, this particular criteria is a good thing, you know, how are we gonna put the scores together and then come up with a way to collect those scores and rate individual parcels. So that was the goal of our meeting, and we did that. And we came up with, since you guys all, I know we reviewed all those criteria and thought about what ones were important to you.
Did your homework, in other words, right?
Yeah.
The list for us.
Yeah, so,
Now we have a test.
yeah, so this is the list that you saw before at our last meeting of the different criteria.
And it was edited a little bit, we did edit the list a little bit.
Yeah,
Have enough physicists.
yes, I do. So once you got those, I can explain it, or maybe Bob can do that.
Yeah, I can do that.
Thank you.
Mike?
And I did get your email.
Good.
Matter of fact, here it is right here.
Don't you have some?
I think he gave you something in your folder, didn't he?
They're
Rick, this was at the
they're not
bottom of that,
easy.
was that yours?
Oh, yeah.
Is that section?
I wonder where that went.
Okay,
I don't know what she.
with our main focus at the meeting was to agree on the major criteria, and then each major, this is a sort of a relatively classical evaluation scheme So you have your major criteria, which you can see in bold listed here. And each major category carries a relative weight of importance to it. And we agreed on a weighting scale of 1 to 5, and then we evaluated or discussed which of those major categories, what the weight would be for those. And then you have subcategories below it which also need a weight, because some of those items are not all as critical as others. And so I don't think we're gonna do this now, but I think what we would like you to do, right, you wanna go through all of these now? No.
No.
I don't think I'm grasping yet. Are we talking the criteria weight column?
Yep.
Is that a weighting factor, or is that a score?
That's a weighting factor.
So there'll be another column with a score for each
Yeah.
of these criteria?
Yeah, the next column over.
Oh, no, what he's talking about is, you know, and we talked about it at the meeting, and we can decide that, or clarify that right now. Does each one of the subcategories have a weight, or are we just gonna evaluate those? Maybe that's not clear on our own. You got a thought on that, Tim? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I thought we were gonna weight them from a scale of
Or
1 to
just,
5.
oh, no, that's a score.
Well, score weight.
Well, no, there's a big difference between the two, because just like the major categories have different levels of importance, the subcategories have a level of importance, and then you score them, right?
Well, to me, that's the same thing.
So there's a third column that doesn't appear here
There could be.
for the score.
Okay.
No, what I'm talking, just like the major category has a weight, a subcategory could have a weight,
Oh,
or
I
we just
see
give
what
it a
you're saying.
score.
Yeah, okay.
Or we could simplify it and just have it scored.
Yeah, I thought we had just talked about the 2 levels.
Just have a score,
Yeah.
which is, I've gone through this exercise with, in a prior life a bunch of times. And in the prior, in the example that we're using here, it was just a score. Any comments from anybody else, whether those subcategories should have a weight and then a score, or just score them 1 to 5?
I don't
confused
think
on the
you want to get
difference.
too Byzantine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just go straight to
Just
score.
put a score down. Yeah.
So the reason that I printed these out and handed them out to everybody is so we didn't have to do it tonight and go through these, take them home with you. Yeah, fill them out, and I will send everybody the spreadsheet if you wanna do it in Excel or in Google's spreadsheet application. That way, when I combine them all, I don't have to retype them, but
Yeah.
if not, you can just
That makes sense.
fill them out and send them to me.
So,
But that's contrary to what we just talked about.
so the parcel attributes dropped out since the last version?
Yes.
Some of them are combined up
We
above.
moved some of the subcategories in it into another location,
Oh, I
and there was
see.
only like 1 or 2 things left there. We didn't think it was necessary to have, carry that as a major weighted criteria.
Okay. So,
But relative to putting I think the assignment, Rick, and I guess maybe it wasn't clear from our own little committee meeting, the subcommittee meeting, is you only put a score there once you're evaluating a particular property, right?
Well,
or you could just make them up.
but I
If
think
they put something in there now, then that would be in the category of weight, because it's not associated with any particular property.
right, but,
Yeah.
yeah, so you could do it.
Yeah, good point.
The
Yeah.
very first one, abuts links to conservation areas. I think what we need to figure out is, do we wanna put a number 1 through 5 there for the weight that we will attach to that?
Yes.
Here we go back to.
And
Then
if-
it's
if a
double weighted,
when we-
and that can be handled easily with the tool that I've got. So, and that's why some of these are really do have different weights.
Yeah,
Yeah, there would be. The whole idea was what's important to us in Hubbardston.
Okay, then it is double weighted, so we are looking for them to weigh those, and when you put a 1 to 5 in there, that's not against a particular property, that's how important you think that subcategory is.
Right.
Okay.
All right. Circle back again. All right.
So there is one category there that kind of doesn't match with the rest of that, the acreage, one under wildlife and priority habitat. We originally had that on the list that we took from, I think that came from East Quabbin Land Trust's criteria. That's how they rated a property. They assigned a point for every 10 acres. The point being, for them at least, maybe bigger pieces of property were more important than smaller, et cetera. So it's kind of hard to weight that.
No, I mean, that would be the score. The
Yeah.
1
Yeah,
point for every
that's
10
right.
acres, and you can weight it however
Yeah.
you think it falls.
Okay.
Yes, just like all the others.
Okay.
So some people may not think that's a major major significance.
Yep.
So you give it a relatively low weight.
Okay.
So I'm,
And so the comments, the feedback, I mean, other people have looked at this, it's, just confirm you think the major categories and subcategories are appropriate, and then put the weight of each of the subcategories in there from your own perspective. That's what we're asking for, right?
Yep. Exactly.
What is meant by threat of change undermining conservation value?
That would be that, so we're looking at a piece of property, and if there would be some changes come,
You mean like development?
development,
Okay.
I don't know what, there could be any number of things.
Yeah.
Then that, the fact that there was a threat of change for some reason,
Mhm.
would mean it was be more important to protect.
Any other questions on that, or comments from anybody else? So-
Yeah,
how did you arrive at a lower major category weight for unwanted features?
majority vote.
Because I see some of these as potential showstoppers, period.
Right.
So how do you wind up with a low weight for that?
Yeah.
Oh, unless, are these positive scores now, not negative?
The negative would be, the possible unwanted features, I would think would be either negative or 0, right?
I mean, they were originally presented as negative.
Yes,
Yeah.
I would think they'd be negative. I think one reason why that major category is just a 3 is because most of the potential problems that are listed in many situations can be resolved. You know, if there's a hazardous structure or there's hazardous materials, those can be removed. So there's something like abutting other conservation land. If it doesn't abut other conservation land, there's nothing we can do to change that when we acquire it. Unless we acquire other land, which goes with the part of unfragmented land area. But so you think the possible unwanted features should be given a higher category weight?
Yeah, these weights, that's open for discussion too.
I guess ultimately it depends on how you score it, regardless of how you weight it.
Yeah, that's true.
But I was my initial reaction to some of the negative values on your version 1 was that that's not negative enough. I mean, that's not gonna drop the score enough, 'cause that's,
Really?
yeah.
Enough for what?
To knock it off the list.
Well,
I mean,
we're
you're-
not talking about knocking something off the list, we're talking about relative positions on the list, right? So if you have two properties that are identical, except one of them has a hazardous structure on it, what was the, in the first draft we had, how many points were on there for that? Really hate to go.
Minus 8.
-8, so if you've got two parcels of land that are identical for everything else, but one's got a hazardous structure, it's gonna come out with a total score that's 8 points less than the one that doesn't have a structure on it, so.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
Well, and I think the way to proceed with this is just, respond with what you feel is that, and we can then, the subcommittee can just do a couple test cases to see how
Yeah.
it flushes out.
Yeah.
When you actually put it into a
That's the way.
practical application.
Yeah.
Right, so this is like a second pass, if you would, but there's a lot to it, so take the data that we response from people when they respond to this request that Rick has sent out, and then we'll get that, we can do a test case on it and then report back to see how we think it feels before we say, okay, now let's use that for our rating system.
Yeah, because we haven't even populated the
Yeah.
list yet. I mean, the main goal was to get everybody's input on what they thought was important.
Yeah.
On a scale of 1 to 5.
And when you go to apply it to particular properties, then that's when it gets nitty-gritty and things become much clearer as to how this will get utilized. All right?
So you want everybody to put down their thought as to what the weight would be?
Yeah, how important
between
each one of those
1 to 5,
subcategories
and
are.
email them to you?
Yeah,
Maybe if you sent it a link that we could fill it out online, and like you said, you wouldn't have to retype it in.
right,
Yeah.
yeah, I'll put it on the drive,
That's good.
and, but if, you know, if you wanna send it, that's fine too. I can do data entry.
All right?
I have a comment for.
Yeah, go ahead, Rick.
The email that I received had it as Excel, and unfortunately, my laptop I don't have a license for Excel. So you also mentioned a Google spreadsheet.
Yep,
So that would be better for me.
yep, that's fine.
And then you were talking about accessing
No,
this
just-
file. Is there like a common place where the Open
Yes,
Space
you can
Committee
allow
can
it to
share
drive.
documents?
You wanna know, you have to give them permission to get on.
Yeah, that-
You'll
that's-
have to share at least that file to the public.
Okay, yeah, we can do that.
Because otherwise I can't play.
Yeah, I can share it with them anyway, so. it's-
All right,
And then,
sounds good.
and then Bob, I
I'll
have
just-
one more comment on this. And I see ancient forest, and I know you guys try to slice and dice this, and you could, we could all come up with individual ones. But it seems like it's contains ancient forest. To me, that goes under the wildlife and priority habitat. An ancient forest is priority habitat, and it says, ecologically significant. Well, yeah, it's the only one that seems like it already has another category for it, but then forestry and agriculture are down to just 2 items, which maybe that's why you kind of put it there to flesh that category out a little. That's just.
No, the reason for that, priority habitat is as defined by, Fish and Game.
Okay, so it has a specialized meaning there.
Yeah.
Okay.
But there is no ancient forest in Hubbardston anyway. Right.
Okay, cross that one off,
So it's kind of
that's
a moot
easy.
point, isn't it?
Leave it there if you want.
That was kind of my reaction too, but you can always be surprised by a
Yeah.
small pocket, I suppose.
Yeah.
So do we have to go to Petersham to find the ancient forest? Is that what we have to do?
Princeton, or,
About what you said, not what Jen said.
yeah. Mount
Yeah,
Wachusett.
there's quite a bit on Mount Wachusett.
Okay.
Or is it just old
Which-
North?
All right, we'll take that one off from this.
And, yeah, certainly comment on ones that you don't think are appropriate at all. I guess by scoring them, you would do that anyway, but.
Yeah, we're not gonna go over every one of these, so when you look at those subcategories, besides putting a score against it, if you don't think it's
Put a
pertinent on
note,
that,
yeah,
then.
right in the notes.
Put 0.
Yeah, give it 0.
Or just write
There you
something
go.
in the notes.
Yeah, I mean.
Knock it right out.
Keep in mind, these criteria were a combination of, from different sources, and the whole point of trying to figure out what's important to Hubbardston is, what's
Oh, yeah.
important to one of the land trusts, or, the state of Connecticut, may not apply here, it may not be appropriate here, so we just started with a list, and this is what we started with.
Yeah,
All right.
thank you.
And maybe, it'd be great if I could get them back within a week or so.
That fast? Because otherwise we'll forget, and then.
Yeah, I mean,
Got the day
let's
before
let's
the
get the
next
thing
meeting.
going.
Yeah, no, that's good,
Because
because
that'll
then,
give us time to,
yeah, to
subcommittee
get
to play
together
with
again
that.
to go over the updated list. All right,
Great.
moving on from that, all right.
Thank you.
Any, want to discuss any preliminary plans for proceeding with the open space plan update? Mark, you got any thoughts on that?
Well, I missed the last meeting. which
Well, the
sounded-
only thing
sounded like you guys had-
that came up there is we need to start putting together ideas on how we're gonna proceed when we start this effort. So, and there was some discussion from other
Christopher,
people.
yeah. Christopher and Katie.
How and when
Yeah,
should we proceed? You got any thoughts? No, I mean,
Probably,
start-
probably by
Do
June.
you still having the May 11th meeting?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, that
Oh,
sounds
yeah,
interesting.
we need to talk
Yes.
about that. How many people from, we
You-
don't
you-
want it to be a quorum for that group,
No,
correct?
It can be.
Oh, it can be?
So the select board is asking for at least one rep from all boards and committees, so that way we can start talking and sharing information, cause like, sitting on the EDC and some of these others where, I kinda sit in, I hear, and so doesn't like Whitney Freiberg, who's chair of the EDC, a lot of double work. We're all volunteers, do we really need to reinvent the wheel 2-3 times by different boards and committees? So if we all knew what each other was doing, we could possibly help each other and cut down some of the workload, especially seeing that, this is all volunteer efforts. I know for a fact, Whitney was working on something that Kathy Hansgate for the Board of Health was working on. And it's like, so why are we all doing this? So, we talked about it at the select board meeting, whenever it was, a couple times ago. And we're looking at hopefully maybe doing this quarterly for the year, just to have at least one rep come, and so that way we can just spitfire and see what's going on. Maybe a couple might find something to work on together, or that sounds interesting, I'd love to hear more, kind of thing, so that way boards and committees, we're just trying to make life easier for everybody. That's all it is. But yeah, we're asking for at least one, volunteer to come. There is going to be, all groups are gonna have to put in, because some of us sit on multiple groups, like this. So we could, in part, make a quorum by just being there. Like Christopher Monroe's one, I'm one, Mark's one, we sit on multiple things. So there will be, your committee will need to put a meeting up. Most likely you won't create a quorum, but this is to make sure that we don't violate any open meeting laws, because that's not the intent of this. This isn't trying to get anybody in trouble, this is trying to just, let's all talk, but more are welcome. It's not like you can only send one, and be careful who you send, because we can't make a quorum anywhere else. This is, all are welcome, and we'd love to talk with everybody, so this is trying to open the door for communication. Because I'm all about communication, I like to talk. Good, bad, or indifferent, let's have a conversation.
Any thoughts or comments? Who from this committee would like to attend that? Susan?
Yeah, I have a bee in my bonnet for the habitat that I'd like to present the idea, and I'll float it now. That every board or committee, not mandated to do it, but they have the opportunity to somehow welcome that family in. For example, open space
That
could
kind of
give
habitat.
naps. What did you say?
Habitat for Humanity? Is that
Hang
what we're
in there,
talking
Mark.
about?
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah,
the
that's
house.
changed from.
The house.
Yeah.
Hang in there, Mark.
Yeah. Yes, remember, we're building a house over there, and so it'd be nice if, when we welcome the family, different boards could, not a big gift or something. I had a bird house, which I hope will be from CPC, because we helped build the house, and they have a house for their birds. And I don't know if I left it in the truck or at home, but anyway, that sort of thing. What do you think?
Well, that's a whole, let's talk about, cause Kathy was, I think Kathy Hansgate and Whitney were talking about doing some kind of welcome,
Food basket or
yeah, I don't
Yeah.
even know.
Yeah.
But that's the whole thing is, it's just to try to talk about things like that. And granted, some of it may seem kind of, I don't wanna say this in any negative way, so do not take it that way, but like kinda, yeah, do we really need to do that frivolous? But no, it could be something nice that turns into something better, especially, a lot of times boards and committees and town offices seem scary to some people. They don't wanna go down there and talk to the board of health or, and stuff like that. This could be something that is inviting and engaging, or also might be like, hey, we're here, would you like to come volunteer with us? God forbid, we get some more volunteers. But it's just a way to, float ideas, what are you guys working on? And it's more of a, we're just all gonna kinda sit around and go around the group, and everyone will have their, 5 minute of spiel for whatever it is. And, again, like you sit on multiple committees, again, this is the reason why each board and committee needs to put, a agenda, not an agenda, but, a possible meeting, just in case. Because if there's, 3 to 5 of us, depending on how big the board or committee is, we're gonna, we don't wanna hurt ourselves. We just want to, all try to get together to, and more are welcome. So, like if more of you all wanna come, no one's gonna argue. We can fill up 2 rooms if we have to, it doesn't matter. This is what I think should happen, and I feel like this could be a very good thing for the town.
So I nominate Susan for the official rep.
There you go.
Anybody else is welcome.
There you go.
One of the things that we talked about the last meeting, relative to the open space plan, Christopher was here, Katie was here, and Christopher spoke eloquently about the importance of the open space plan, the next iteration of it, how important it was to the town. And my comment at the time was, the last time we updated that, it was pretty much this little group that did it. And I thought that there was a need for other committees to be involved in it more actively than they were. And so Katie said that would be a good venue to bring to that meeting. This is what we need from some other committees to make this open space plan, raise it to the level it should be.
So you said you were thinking like 2 or 3 times a year?
Yeah, I'm personally hoping for quarterly. So, if we could get 3 or 4 times a year, I'd be thrilled. Just so I really think it could help, like I said, share ideas and also help us from trying to duplicate, triplicate things and wasting our times and efforts.
Now, if we could bring where we're at in like the fall to whenever this next multi-committee meeting is, that would probably be good.
Well, I'm thinking more in terms of, at least for the first meeting, say, we need, if we're gonna be working on this, we don't wanna work in a vacuum, just our little group. We need people from planning, we need people from Concom, and maybe some other committees that need to be more actively involved in it. So at least put it on their radar at the first meeting.
I would definitely put in their EDC, because that,
Economic.
the EDC
Yeah.
is very geared to, rather than trying to build industry, which isn't gonna happen in town, because we're not set up for that. We need to grasp what we already have, which is our open space and our agricultural, and try to build our town with that. And use our resources wisely. And build our town economically with those two, because those are our two biggest, you know,
Acres.
pretty much, yeah, I mean, this, our rural characteristic, that's what people move here for. You know, that's why they come here, they want the quiet and the peacefulness and stuff like that. So, if we can help our farmers and incorporate our open space to gear it towards something that will work and help bring in some money into the town with those two major items,
Then it's a win-win.
yes, because we have some serious long-term deficits that will eventually happen, and we may not be able to unbury ourselves. So this is the only shot we got going, you know, that's realistic.
And I guess my thoughts too, just relative to, including this, relative to how we're gonna approach this. I mean, who in the committee is gonna be the people that are gonna be primarily responsible for getting the plan, a plan for the open space plan established, involvement of MRPC, et cetera, because it's a significant effort putting that together.
Yeah.
So do we wanna bring that up as a major topic at our next meeting, just as, because if we wanna start it like
Yeah.
in midsummer, then we gotta start thinking about how we're gonna structure that. So we'll leave that as a topic for the next meeting. But that's the kind of thing we need to figure out what we're gonna do, and maybe put together a subcommittee of people that wanna do that, instead of taking quite a bit of time at this meeting to bounce ideas about it. All right?
Yeah.
All right. Let's see, that's it for old business that I had. Anything else? If not, we'll topic, new business topics. And Jassy arrived, for the meeting. You didn't catch us on Zoom, Jassy?
No. That's what the agenda said on the website, the Zoom.
The parking area topic, there's been a few emails floating around that, so I'll introduce it. I have not followed all of it. I have the gist of it. There's someone in town that has property adjacent to the current rec field, and they have offered for sale, is that what it is, to the town, some vacant property that the initial traffic on it was that this could be an area to expand parking. But then I know Mark and Tim have comments, and a concern was the amount of traffic that would then introduce onto High Street. So then Mark and Tim traded ideas that maybe you could move the soccer field and put parking into that area. So from my own perspective, I'm not aware of the extent of the parking problem as it exists, how bad it really is. And so anybody can take over, and actually relative to an open space, what's our role in this?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's what I
I
was
was
just
about
gonna
to
ask.
say something there. I mean, I don't know how deep.
Why is this our purvey, I guess?
I don't think it is, actually. I
Well,
mean,
I thought.
it would be different if we didn't have a Parks Commission,
Right?
but since we do have a Parks Commission,
Yeah.
I think this falls pretty squarely in their court, so to speak.
But in the town plan, it's an open space and recreation chapter, and in
The
there.
report definitely is, but there's a division of responsibilities in the town government.
But we're part of that whole also. I think sometimes we think our own little niche, you know, and the town's been good. Fieldstone Farm happened and so forth, but I think if we show an interest in some other people's efforts, it's not a bad thing, that's all.
Well, yeah, I think from I'm leaning towards Mark's comments. I mean, we might have an input, but the major folks that ought to be discussing this, pushing it, figuring out how it would work or not work, or recommending it, or the need for it. That's Parks and Rec, isn't it?
It would seem that way, but it has a
But we
history,
may have a-
correct?
Oh, yes, it has.
See, I'm a newbie,
Yes,
but
oh
I
no,
just heard.
Jazzy can tell you, it's got a history.
Yeah.
I know she's very much against it. It came up again this has happened before.
What has a history? This
2010, I believe.
What has, Katie,
Yeah.
what has a history? This particular
This
property?
particular piece of property.
Oh, okay.
So it came up for sale in 2010, and it did not go over well with High Street folks, which I can see why. You know, the plan was there, and it was just kind of it failed at town meeting. It has come up again. We invited the High Street folks for an open conversation to the select board meeting. Some of the High Street, Jazzy was there, and some of the other ones, Danielle Arkelian, Alfonso was there, Nancy was there. There was a few in the room, and they still do not like the idea. But again, this is not even, we haven't even gotten to the point of where the actual lines, because I have questions on where the lines are after looking at it, nor do we have a dollar amount, nor do we have, we're so far out, it was just a kind of, this is back open again. High Street folks do not want a parking lot entrance on High Street. And I said, okay, what if we can figure it out the other way? Some of the High Street folks that were in the room were okay with that. Some were a little not sure how it would work out. I realistically, because originally I said if there was a gate to shut it, and that was not good enough for the High Street folks. So I'm thinking that it's still so far out there in the realm of we're not even, it's just like that idea that's kind of percolating right there. Because again, we don't have dollar amounts, there's a whole lot of questions that need to be answered before anything could move anywhere with this, and it's so far out there. But the only way I could see it going forward would be if the parking came to the front of 68 entrance. And the other part of it is to do a complete streets walking path that connects the center of town, like here, all the way down, loops down High Street, goes into that property, comes around front and comes back and loops. So it would be a complete walking path. That could set us up for future grants. It opens up the door for a lot of opportunities for the town. Does that mean it's the best idea and we should go with it? Maybe, maybe not. I can't answer those questions until we get way more information than what we have. Because right now, we don't have enough information to do anything, but we didn't want to sit on anything, and my whole thing is I'd much rather be upfront with people, because I'm like you see me coming from a mile away, you know? This is what I'm talking about. I don't want to have anything behind closed doors. I don't like that. I don't like not talking to everybody involved about it. So that's why the first, before we could even get anywhere, let's talk with the High Street folks, because they're gonna be the ones that are the most impacted to any change in that area.
So the
So-
select board invited the High Street.
Yes, yeah, we sent
That
postcards
was
to
a
everybody
smart move.
We sent
I
postcards
think,
to everybody on the
Because
street.
it gave you all a voice, and then I watched it before I came tonight.
Yeah.
And it was an exchange of ideas. I think people didn't get too, almost, but not quite.
Yeah, it was, yeah, I mean, the room was a little tense.
It's not a binary choice though, maybe.
It's not, you're never gonna make everybody happy. You're never going to. But the whole thing is if we can figure out a way to move forward all together and in a good way, great. If we can't, because it's just not a good plan, okay, great. At least we know. If we don't start weeding out the information, we'll never get to that answer.
So you're exploring it at this point.
Yeah, we don't have,
But
there's so many, like, I have so many questions about that map, nothing made sense. I'm like, this doesn't even look right. And there's questions on whether it could be separated or not. I have a laundry list of questions.
But there's a
So-
few red lines that I could see immediately, that High Street is a community, it's like a bad dream come back.
Yeah.
And I can certainly see that road would turn into, well, especially since it's gonna get fixed too, it won't have all the potholes and everything.
True, but I
So
mean,
if
the only
that's-
people that
It's
would
gonna
know
get-
about the parking lot, are people
It's
that
gonna
would,
get fixed, but
you
it
know,
doesn't make it any
I
wider.
heard that others
It
would
doesn't,
eventually
well, it
figure
might
out.
though, I thought it was gonna be widened, that was
I don't
part of
think
it,
so.
wasn't it?
What?
It's just
No.
resurfacing, isn't it, Jesse?
They're
They're not, okay.
they're trying to make it a proper road, so it's not going to
Oh.
And widen it.
be
Oh,
a
I
whole
didn't
bunch
realize.
of.
Sidewalks on it.
Didn't
The
realize that.
widening the road is a bad idea if you're concerned about the speed of traffic
Yeah.
on the road.
Yeah.
There are
I mean-
techniques to,
Living on Route Road, I can say,
There's-
hey,
there's
it's a dirt road
specific
with potholes
engineering
and people are
techniques.
50 miles an hour.
Mhm.
Constructing a road, so that it doesn't feel like a highway, and people do slow down, it's called traffic calming,
Yeah.
Traffic what?
calming.
Calming.
So there's ways to do that.
I mean,
Well-
anyway, I find this
Yeah.
a very interesting issue as a citizen, as a committee. The only way I see us having an official role would be if the parks folks happen to come up to us for our opinion on what we would think if they drained the 15 grand in the preservation account.
And that's what's gonna happen, because they'll be looking for money.
Well, couldn't
And-
we kind of like, sort of push for the land to be used a certain way, maybe not used as a parking lot, but we could push for it to be
A
used
trail,
as
a walking
hiking
trail.
trail, a walking trail, a learning trail.
Disabled.
And maybe be advocates for that, and so,
Yeah.
yeah, we think maybe they should purchase the land, but it should be used in a different way, not for cars to park.
And then the where the other fields are could be the parking. And the other red line, before I lose my train of thought, which is an easy thing to do, that it's not fair to that community. Listening to them talk about, I just thought, would I want it in my backyard, you know? And the other red line is, one of the gentlemen kept on saying, well, we could have a red light there, and I'm thinking, it's like horseback riding, it's not if you're gonna fall, it's when it happens, it's
Yeah.
gonna happen.
Oh, yeah.
So, but
the
and
whole
it'll be
red
a
light
kid,
thing, I was-
and something horrible could happen trying to cross that road as a regular way of back and forth, it's just not a good recipe.
Yeah, that's the edge of the 45.
So those
Well,
are
we-
two red lines that I see, and I'm done.
Yeah, I wanna sort of bring this to an end, because at the moment, we're spending quite a bit of time talking about this, and likely role in any kind of decision-making is probably really, really small. Jassy, you came down specifically for that. Did you have anything you wanted to contribute to this?
Yeah, I just wanted to reiterate that this did come up 11 years ago. Every single resident except one on Main Street was strongly opposed to it. The town meeting vote against it was pretty much almost unanimous, with very few exceptions. As far as our community and rights, and we have a very strong community on West Street. We see this as being incredibly detrimental. And we made this very clear 11 years ago, and we're making it clear again.
All right.
This is not
The-
good for a really tight-knit neighborhood. It's not a good plan, and there are other solutions to parking, especially as the town owns and across the street.
Okay, as a ex-open space chairperson, Ms. Jassy, what role do you see the open space committee playing here? Why are we?
Well, I mean, I think the letter was sent around to all the town boards. I think it was to
Just-
get involvement from everyone. Reading Ed Blanchard's email, I think he thought the open space committee had funds.
I found that pretty comical.
Use all the funds from, I think this is what he's thinking, I don't know, but all the funds from, all the income we generate on Mount Jeff goes in the fund for Hudson Preservation. And I think he thinks that open space controls that, they don't, Parks does. So, you know, open space doesn't have any funds, but he's referring to open space and funds. And
So somebody thought we were gonna fund this?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that was the really funny
I
part.
missed that.
And
So
open
that's
space-
how involved. Somebody thought we were gonna fund this.
Open space is also represented on the CPC, which is looking for CPC funds. So I think that's why.
Well, it does
What
affect
open
us
space
though,
has,
because
that's what-
if those open space funds went for that, there wouldn't be anything for anything else.
Yeah, no, I was
So
saying, we'd
it-
need to have an official response if Park asked us about it. They don't have to ask us even.
They don't. That's-
And
We have one vote on the committee.
yeah, and finally, that's getting to be, I mean, 15,000 isn't a lot of money, but it's half of 30,000, I mean, you know, so.
There you go.
Can't argue.
Well,
And it's a
they're-
third of 45.
If this moves forward, they're gonna be really looking for funds, and I'm thinking, you
All right,
know. Okay, so maybe we should move on. but
Yeah.
Have we heard what we need to have heard and said?
Yeah, and I appreciate you asking. That's what I want to make it more.
Mike?
I have one comment regarding that, is that wouldn't you wanna use this criteria to assess that property?
There you go,
I
Mike.
think we're leaping ahead, these
There
might all
you
be
go.
zeros,
Yes.
but, you know, still, you should go through the motion.
There you go.
And say, no, we've done our due diligence, we've checked the box, and this doesn't have, this particular property that is being put to the town, us getting the option to look at buying it, it doesn't meet
Well,
high criteria.
I talked about a test case. That could be our test
There
case.
you go. It'd be probably pretty easy going down
Yeah.
the list
Yeah.
though. But I think that
But
that's
doing-
the purpose of this. We normally think of chapter land, probably.
Yeah.
For this, but, and this isn't in chapter, that nobody brought that up.
No, it doesn't have, well, it
Well, it's
doesn't
not
have to
big
be
enough.
chapter land, so.
Yeah, that's right. It doesn't have to be chapter
That's right.
land, but that's probably the bulk of what this would be used to assess.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
That
doing
was
the,
it.
doing the due diligence is what Katie was talking about,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
All right. We done? Moving on? Very good. Next topic, Eagle Scout projects for Hunter Young. Any ideas, you wanna, Hunter, you wanna talk to that, or?
I pretty much came to open space first, because I already had a bunch of people in my troop do the rec field. So I came to open space to see if you guys have any projects that need to be done.
Yeah.
Yes, he just
So he's
had it
looking for an Eagle
wide
Scout
open.
project.
And this is Eagle, so you would need to be doing the organizing the whole
Project
project.
management.
But you're looking for an initial idea?
Yeah.
Trail construction connection to the, what's it called? Sorry, the trail
Mid-state?
you walked us on, mid-state.
Oh.
Mid-state.
That's a project.
No, he's gotta finish his Eagle before he's 18.
Oh.
I'm only 16.
Yeah, but still, summers go quickly.
What are the criteria for an Eagle Scout? Like, what-
You wanna read them the criteria?
Yeah,
Like
that's a good,
somewhat.
that's a great question.
There's 5 things in the criteria. He was reading it to me earlier.
Alright, 5 things to test for it to be an acceptable Eagle Scout project. The first thing, it provides
Development.
what? Pointing right there!
Sufficient.
Sufficient opportunity to meet the Eagle Scout Service project requirements, which pretty much you must show that planning, development, and leadership will take place, and how the 3 factors will benefit a religion, institute, a school, or your community. Number 2, it appears to be feasible, so you must show the project is realistic for you to carry out. Number 3, safety issues will be addressed, So you must show you have an understanding of what must be done to guard against injuries and what will be done if someone gets hurt. Number 4, action steps for further detailed planning are included. You must make a list of the key steps you will take to make sure your plan will have enough details so it can be carried out successfully. Number 5, you are on the right track with a reasonable chance for a positive experience. That's pretty much it. I can't do anything with helping another scout with a project. So there's no scouts with open space doing projects, so pretty much anything.
Something that is a betterment for the community.
Okay, maybe he could even send that list to us and we could look it over and, well, help me to know what, email it or something?
Well, most of it is, it didn't pertain to how to select a project for the
When we
most
pick the
part.
project, to be any project, is something that you think that he could,
Pretty much. As long as it's like, who was it, Cole, I think, or Jazzy, I'm pretty sure, put up, some of the big signs in the front of trailheads one year.
okay,
One of the kids built that Gaga pit, another kid built 2 memorial benches, the ones that are floating around the rec field. This past year, one of the kids painted the snack shack and repaired some stuff. Another kid scraped, painted, and did chain for the cemetery commission. All that white fencing, the like granite posts.
yeah, okay.
So it needs to be something that he leads the other boys. He doesn't actually physically do the work, which kind of
I just do the
He-
logistics and
yeah,
planning.
plans it all out, figures it all out, and then runs the rest of the troop to actually do the work.
Okay,
So, yeah, I know, it's like, really? You don't do anything? Okay, great.
all the planning's a lot.
Yeah, so that's, yeah. Unlike Girl Scouts where it's, you're on your own, good luck. You figure it out. It's like, okay. Boy Scouts is, they're trying to train them to be a leader.
Hey, they're more task oriented.
Yeah.
I could be relationship oriented too,
But,
which is helping out in the project.
okay. So, but either way, it has to be something that would, make a community impact of some way or another.
Cynthia, you got a comment?
Yeah, I was just, there may be plenty of projects on town-owned lands as well, but at Hidden Meadow over on Lombard Road, we want to do a trail installation. So if the town doesn't already have projects that they're snapping at for an Eagle Scout project,
She's
there
like,
are
"I'll take
other
it."
projects available.
Is it blaze the entire trail or?
Yeah, or a trail segment, we could work on it. We've done Eagle Scout projects on our properties before, but, you guys get priority, but there are other projects available.
And the trail would have to be planned as well.
Right, so we would flag out the trail together, but actual trail construction, cutting and raking and lopping, all of that.
Tim?
One other thought that I had was the project at the Gates Homestead to clean up the material, vegetation and rock and concrete around the old foundation to make it easier to maintain and easier for people to see
I was
it.
thinking the
All
same
that poison
thing.
ivy.
Yeah, I was too.
Yeah, before it gets going. Yeah.
Perfect.
And maybe another aspect of that could be to do some more research on the property and add to the interpretive science there.
Do you know what we're talking about? Probably not. The, up at Gates Hill, we did a significant clearing at the old mansion there.
That's at top of Mount Jeff.
I know what you're talking about.
Okay, so I didn't know if.
But
you knew what Gates was.
there's a lot of concrete rubble that needs to get out.
Do you know where the foundation is behind with remember when we were doing the haunted hayride and the walk went behind it?
Because it could even include maybe,
Yeah. Yeah, there's
safety
like a
fencing, the
whole
plan for safety fencing and stuff.
Great.
Yeah,
Maybe we could write down some suggestions and let him look at a list.
yeah, that's a good idea.
That was gonna be my point is, Hunter, what are you interested in?
Pretty much anything to get me my eagle ride.
Well,
That's probably not a good
the
answer.
criteria mentioned success several times in it. And most things in life, if you're interested in it, you have a better opportunity for it to be successful. So I think, Hunter, you need to, give us a few ideas about what you're interested in.
Isn't there, Mount Jeff, where, we were walking on the trail cleaning it out? There was like those, the trail signs that are pretty much hidden, couldn't see, because
Yep.
they pretty much fell off and hit the ground.
Mhm.
Could like rebuild them and put posts in the actual, like, intersection of the trail, pointing off in directions and make like actual trail markers.
What'd you do, read our project list before you came?
No?
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna have the,
Yeah,
we're gonna have,
signs.
well, we're gonna have the trail junction signs, but the trail name signs,
Oh.
that's not gonna, it's not gonna deal with any of that. The named signs that tend to be high up on the trees and hidden by branches.
usually
and
you
this
know
and
where they
that.
are 'cause you
Well,
can't see 'em.
and in some cases, actually misleading. Like if you go down behind the chimney and you get to the intersection of Canesto Brook, I think the sign would actually have people take a left there and not a right.
Details.
Details.
I thought that was the plan.
That's a possibility.
That's a good possibility, because it dovetails with those new.
Yeah, I mean, it would involve both repainting, well, either repainting existing signs, or if they're too far gone, you know, maybe creating new signs. There is new signage that's gonna go out there, but it doesn't have to do with trail names. We still need the identification
Get rid of that
signs
sign
of
in our garage.
Yeah.
what a trail is
Found
called.
one, brought it home.
Yeah.
We just haven't brought it back yet.
Which one is?
Well, it's, what
Behind
is
the
it,
chimney?
Gates Hill? Behind the chimney. Well, we could even give you a sign to start.
I've got one
Steph and
too.
I found one that was just on the, relative to the idea, and I think that's got quite a bit of merit. We've got a sign that was, I think, we found
the
it
ground in
after
the
we did all the
woods.
clearing there or something.
Yeah.
It was just on the ground, the post had rotted, and the sign's on the ground, so.
We brought it home waiting for Hunter to say, I'll fix it.
So he would supervise the other people putting them in,
oh.
making them?
He,
That's the part I'm not.
pretty
sure
much
yet.
the whole, so he would have to go with you guys to figure out where and what and how many and what would actually be needed, make up a huge list. Then he'd have to figure out how to fund the fixing of each one and how to actually physically fix it. And then he'd have to implement that plan.
Going too far. I have to make a proposal.
Okay, first he has to make a proposal, he has
Once
to
we
get
get the
permission.
list on what we do,
No fighting now.
yes, we'll start fighting, verbally fighting. And then I gotta make a proposal, and then I gotta have my unit leader sign it off, the committee chair sign it off, you guys sign it off, and then my council sign it off. Before then I can go into the planning phase and actually do it. And then after that, I gotta make up a report and send it to council.
So, time-wise,
Time-wise.
to put together the proposal in the first place, because you can't start work on it until you've done that and done the planning.
Time-wise, I got pretty much more than a year and a half left in the troops, so.
Well, and the reason I'm asking is because a couple of these projects we're talking about, we want to get done in the near term. So, right? The Gates,
Well,
the Gates Hill cleanup.
Spring,
and-
summer of this year, right?
And I don't know about trail signs, whether you want to put that off, because it sounds like we're talking Well,
It's
not
not
even-
an overnight project.
Well, no, and it's not, that,
Yeah.
is this something that's gonna get done this summer is the question.
It could,
Depends how fast the council can go.
yeah.
Sounds unlikely.
Yeah, it's,
That's what
it
I was
doesn't
thinking.
take as long as you think it does, but it does take a little while to kind of, from point A to B, you know, that there's a gap there, and.
Yeah, and I don't have any thought about it at all, I have no idea.
I don't think any project would be done by spring or summer. Or even,
Usually it takes 6 months to
Yeah.
do an Eagle Scout
Yeah.
project.
yeah, from start to
That's going
finish.
fast speed.
And that's if everyone's,
I mean, my opinion would be that if we wanna do the Gates, get the Gates Hill thing done this summer, right? Is that?
Yeah,
and-
but would that be within the scope of, the Eagle Scout project?
Yeah, could be.
Could be.
Well, it could
But
be
if
the planning, we could still do some of the contribution, but.
But it would put it into next,
It would
next
put it,
construction
we wouldn't be
season,
able to
hopefully.
do it this summer is what I'm saying, it would have to be next year.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I'd rather see it done this year, I mean, otherwise that stuff's gonna be all grown up again.
But then that would mean it wouldn't be a good Eagle Scout.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So so the signage thing is probably more appropriate, right?
Well, it depends on whether we want it done this year or not.
Oh, I think the trail, we've been living with the trail signs the way they are for
Well,
20
I
years.
think that's crucial.
Just do one trail, he doesn't have to do the entire trail system in Hubbardston, but just the one trail, right?
No, we're
Could
talking
be
about
a
doing all the trail
signs.
signs.
Yeah.
Oh, just in the one area or the whole town?
No,
Just
Okay.
just the Mount Jeff, just our state forest trail system. That's reasonable.
Oh, yes.
So then, I mean,
I kinda like the idea of, myself and others, I like the idea of the signage project, which, from my perspective, a lot of it could be yourself and take somebody that doesn't even know where they're going with you and see if they can figure out and you go with them, and every place is an ambiguity and they can't find signs, et cetera, or the sign's taking them the wrong way, then that would be a way to figure out what you gotta do to fix it. Yes, no, Mark's thinking.
Well, most of the wayfinding stuff is gonna be taken care of with the
Oh,
professional signs that we're putting
Yeah.
out. But the, you know, the routed wooden signs are a nice touch.
If someone doesn't have a,
I don't think they're gonna be
an
replaced
app.
entirely by the wayfinding
yeah.
signpost signs.
Well, how would he proceed with the signage part? What's a,
that's up to him, he's gotta put the
yeah,
proposal
maybe you
together and
could
do the
write
planning.
just a little proposal for us on
I
that.
like the signage part. Signage part's not that hard. Just gotta go out there, find the signs, and rename them. So even, like the trail markers on the trails, like shapes to know that you're on the right trail, like a blue circle.
Yeah.
do those need to be
Yeah.
repainted and stuff as well?
Yeah,
Would they be
some do.
eventually,
That
by
could
the
be
time
part
he's
of it.
doing
Yeah,
this?
could be.
And some of them are marked incorrectly as it is.
Yeah, some of them have like 3 different shapes, I'm like.
The trees have
oh my
come
God.
down.
Yeah.
well, if you combine,
Yeah.
yeah, because I agree.
I like
the-
that.
The signs by themselves, would be one part of it. And then, if you added the marking, et cetera, that would just make it a little bit more significant of a project that would fit maybe what your criteria would be.
Yeah, well, what about also like the signs that, like the, at the beginning of the trail, like the boards,
Kiosks.
whatever they're called?
No, that's gonna be taken care of.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's getting done professionally.
They have to stop doing it professionally.
Well, we already got that one going.
Yes.
Mark's already got something
Mark's already-
that we're ready to implement
He was
on
kinda
that.
hoping to jump on that.
Should there be any linkage between what he does and the kiosk stuff?
Doesn't have to be.
Yeah.
Would it help if we could write up a scope, just a few sentences and maybe a map, showing where these trails are, of the things we've all just talked about, so that you could see what the project would involve. And then you could take that and expand it with what each of the steps are in order to achieve that scope.
Yeah, you could use that for your help with your proposal.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I can do that quickly.
Who could he have as a contact
Well, very much the representative.
from the open space for this project?
You wanna continue with Scout,
Yeah,
Scout
I can-
contact?
Who wants to be the scout person?
I'll be the scout person.
So excited to throw your hat.
Right.
Yeah, that's fine.
I'll do up a quick map and draft and shoot
He's
it
doing
around,
all the
shoot it
work
around to
anyway, right?
everybody and
Yeah,
everybody
it's
gets
just
to read.
back, it's the same with Destiny, the back and forth, you know,
All right.
the random emails here and there.
Well, it's definitely something that warrants some cleanup and update and stuff like that, so it would be a beneficial project,
Yeah,
there's no
it
question
would
about
be.
that,
Yep.
Alright,
so.
don't worry, I have a few more girls that are gonna need gold awards very shortly, so don't worry, we're working on it. We gotta finish a journey, and then I'll
Well,
have
we've got-
two
we've
more
got,
of my own personal children
Cynthia
and
sitting over here, one
at
of
least
the
one
last
more.
two items.
So,
Yep. I'm going to.
Yeah, 6 kids.
Okay, done? Cynthia, you wanna move up front and center here? In conjunction with our land acquisition rating criteria, if we come up with some pieces of property that we think are very much worthwhile pursuing, the topic of how the heck do you fund some of this? I know there's a lot of parcels, and I can easily envision some significant acquisitions, at least of the order of magnitude of Fieldstone and beyond, that are all vacant properties, at any rate. So Cynthia, Rick invited Cynthia to come down and talk about funding scenarios for large scope projects, right? That's the
Yeah, among
general
other
idea.
things. For those of you who haven't met her, Cynthia is the director of East Quabbin Land Trust, and was instrumental in getting the Fieldstone Farm property, which is now Hidden Meadow. And some of us already know her and have worked with her, but we've got a couple new members, so I thought it'd be a good idea for you to meet her and learn a little bit about East Quabbin Land Trust. And then the list that we've been working on here the last couple of meetings, a lot of it came from East Quabbin Land Trust's criteria that they use for targeting projects for land conservation. And then she was gonna give us an update on what's going on with Hidden Meadow, right?
Right. That's actually what I thought I was coming to talk about. But good, we're happy to talk about all kinds of things. And I realized I forgot to print out the maps that Roger has put together, but I have them on the computer, so I can just briefly talk to you about that. So you wanted to chat first about funding for conservation projects and priorities that the town might have.
You've got the floor,
And-
whichever you
Well,
wanna do.
from my perspective, yes.
Yeah, so I mean, as you know, I mean, we had the conversation back when we started to talk about Fieldstone Farm, that the town is eligible with an open space, an up-to-date open space and recreation plan. The towns are eligible for land grants, the local acquisition for natural diversities grant programs. That does require, affirmation at town meeting. And of course, you are fortunate enough to have the Community Preservation Act funding, so that can provide some additional dollars towards that. The other piece, I guess, that I would say is I recently had communication with folks in Princeton who were thinking about a larger conservation network, wanting to start talking to more landowners together, because there's also a landscape scale partnership grant program where if you're conserving 500 acres or more, that's in a core, so it's all connected to existing conservation land, and it's a big core, there's a different state grant program that provides funding for that too.
For
There-
what, 500 acres or more?
Right.
Is that the Forest Legacy?
that's different. So the landscape partnership grant is state funding. Forest Legacy is from the U.S. Forest Service. That also is for larger acreage, and because the Legacy program is a federal program, so it's across the country, you're competitive across the country, you need to have about 1,000 acres enrolled in that application in order to be considered competitive. So there's a whole nuance in how to put one of those together, but that is also possible. That would be probably more regional scale, you know, Hubbardston, Princeton, Rutland, you know, some of the closer communities where you would get landowners who are interested in, and that's active forest land, you know, that's the target. It's funded through the Forest Service, so that would make sense for their target. So
That's Forest Legacy, so it's 1,000 acres or more, but it can be a conglomerate of multiple towns?
It's individual landowners from multiple towns, right, and you wanna have it in kind of a region. So I've only participated in one Forest Legacy application, and that was focused around the Quabbin watershed. So we went from the Quabbin to the Wachusett. And that's actually how Henry's Grove came to us. That was funded through, it was one of the parcels in the Forest Legacy program. I mean, that's why the East Quabbin Land Trust has that, because we knew that landowner, we were able to partner and pair them through that funding source. So and none of these pay 100%, so there's always matching dollars that need to be found. There's also, if there's like the way I envision, the way you guys talk about Mount Jeff, it would also, that kind of project would potentially qualify for, the Forest Service has a community forest grant where, you know, the community wants to get together and have an active woodland that would include trails and wildlife habitat and those kinds of things. So that's kind of how I hear you guys talking about Mount Jeff. So if there's another property in town that you see that as a possibility, that can be one property, a smaller acreage. It too is competitive nationwide, but it has different criteria, and that's more about planning and who might want to be involved and engaged in care for that property. So those are the funding sources I can think of.
What's a relative acreage scope of that kind of a project?
I don't know that there is one for that kind of project, but it's, you know, it's a forest land project, so you're gonna wanna have something probably 50 acres or more to qualify for that. But when I review that grant criteria, it's much more about how the community's been engaged, how the community's getting excited about trying to conserve this particular piece of property. There's a vision that's set forth about how the community wants to see it developed for recreation or forest management or bird habitat. You know, that there's a community engagement around it, much more than a Forest Legacy kind of project when you review the grant criteria.
The first one you mentioned, the landscape what was the terminology?
What? Local acquisition for natural diversity. That's a Massachusetts grant through EEA, Energy and Environmental Affairs.
And you said you were working with
Melissa Cryan administers that. You've dealt with Melissa, right?
Land grant?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's land grant. I thought you said there was another one that.
Landscape Scale Partnership Grant?
Yeah.
What's
that? It's called what? Landscape?
Maybe it's not landscape scale, maybe it's just landscape partnership. So that's when you have a
And
minimum of
that's
500.
500 acres.
Minimum of 500 acres that has to be a core. And you're doing it in partnership with a state agency in the town or a land trust, so there's a partnership component in terms of what conservation groups are engaged in it.
Who were you talking to over in Princeton?
Deb Carey just reached out to me.
It's Audubon.
In by a core, what does that mean?
That means one block. So they
So
want.
the 500 acres
It
has to be one block.
contiguous piece.
Contiguous.
So it can't be a piece here and a
It
piece
can't be a
here.
piece here and a piece there and a piece there. A forest legacy application can be a piece here, here, and here. But for a landscape partnership grant application, it's a 500 acre core. You can pull in other pieces in some ways, but they should be kind of connected to the landscape.
Like what we have with Mount Jeff, and if we could acquire all that other land that would attach to it.
Yeah,
That-
right. So if are there 3 other landowners where if you were able to buy their land, you would have 500 additional acres? It's that
Yeah.
kind of thing.
Okay. So the concept of, if you had a large-scale thing, multiple land trusts getting together in some sort of a consortium to help address a large acquisition, that's not something that's done. It's more along the lines of getting appropriate grants and what lands qualify for certain types of grants, is that right?
Well, we were talking about funding, not necessarily the mechanisms of how you did it. I mean,
Right.
how you,
Well,
the
that's what I'm
mechanism of how
talking
you
about.
get to the funding may include land trusts. It all depends on what the lands are and who's got the connections and who's willing to do the work, right?
So it can involve multiple land trusts that might
Sure.
help facilitate.
Sure.
I mean, obviously in right in our immediate area, we get East Quabbin
And North County and Mount Grace are the
Yeah.
ones that officially work in Hubbardston, yeah.
Yeah,
Princeton doesn't have CPC, correct? I don't think they do, but they do have a land trust, or at least one, right?
They have a Princeton land trust, so it's just a town-only land trust.
Yeah.
I think they're all volunteer driven, and Deb Carey works at Mass Audubon, but she was, reaching out from the Princeton Land Trust, Mass Audubon kind of combined network. Mass Audubon has, they're within their most recent strategic planning process, they are, as a larger statewide organization, trying to help more local or smaller regional land trusts and towns do conservation projects. So they're trying to use their capacity to help, because oftentimes it's you guys who know the landowners, right? Not the people that work at Mass Audubon. They may be able to write the grants in order to find the funding, and you guys may say, hey, I know this landowner wants to do it, but where do I get the funding? So it's trying to bring together the skill sets so that the conservation can actually happen on the ground. And so what Mass Audubon, in their most recent plan, is trying to do more of that. And I believe that what she was reaching out to me is because she knew about Fieldstone Farm and the fact that we had Henry's Grove. It's right there on the Princeton town line, and we had been talking about, how to hook trails and get it connected with the mid-state. I mean, there's some broader implications for what happens in that corner of Hubbardston.
okay.
Again, it's just, I just took it as a communication piece, and that just trying to, right? The more things you throw out there, something's gonna stick eventually, and then you can make motion and do
Yeah.
whatever seems to be the easiest.
Is that particular grant, one that requires matching dollars as well?
Everything requires matching dollars.
Okay. Anybody else got any comments along that line?
I wanna talk a little bit about,
Hidden Meadow.
Hidden Meadow,
What?
yeah.
Well,
Hidden Meadow.
Just a
Wanted to
little
hear
bit
where
particulars,
things were with Hidden Meadow.
progress on that.
okay.
Sure, and I forgot, let me get my glasses. So Roger Plourde, as you all know, is our consulting forester. He's been working on a bird habitat plan for Hidden Meadow, the 150 acres on Lombard Road that was acquired last year. DCR holds the conservation restriction thanks in large part to you all for your assistance in pulling that together. And so he has drafted some of the plans here. And again, apologies, this isn't gonna really make any sense to you guys. But can anybody see that? It's, it's kind of a rectangular shape. He's got 6 different stands. The meadow is up on the top. It's this field right here, this
Yep.
area. Right along the road where the white pines are that have been growing in for 30 years, that's the other area of old field. It's got quite a number of different wetlands sections, and in fact, the wetland section in the back, the existing trail kind of crosses over this area. In order to make a loop on the property, we will have to figure out how to cross another section of wetland to kind of get around, so it's going to be a little bit complicated in that way. Roger, basically the forest quality is pretty low on the property, so there's invasives, particularly in the field areas and kind of starting to get into the woods. So the planning that he is putting together for us is that for bird habitat, it would be better to do some forest management on there to diversify what's happening and hopefully improve the next generation of trees that's growing the forest quality. But before you do any cutting, controlling the invasive plants, or if you're gonna do any openings, right? Because one of the habitat types that's missing in the Commonwealth is the early successional habitat type. The other piece that's missing is really the old forest, right? So you can't really create old forest, but you can create young forest. So what the plan is going to call for is, especially around the meadow that's at the top of the hill there, is to start with control of the invasive plants in the meadow itself. So all those honeysuckle that are growing up in the field, to make it more mowable and maintainable for the first couple of years. So pecking away at it a little bit more, and then probably apply for cost share dollars through NRCS, the Natural Resource Conservation Service, to do an EQUIP project, which is environmental quality improvement practices, and that would be a much larger invasive plant control process, getting into the forest stands, the parts where it's getting into the forest stands in the first couple of years, and then do some clearing of the lower quality areas. And one of the things that he mentioned, and I know again it's going to be hard for you to see, but so if the field is right here and we're working on clearing the field, one thought was to clear the pine. There's like a square pine stand, again 30 acres, and right, we walk around it when we're up on the trails there. So to clear that out so that it's a much bigger field. But the bigger bang for your buck that you get for bird habitat is if you also connect with water areas. So he was saying like woodcock, for instance. They're going to want to feed in areas where it's muddy, more wet, which is this kind of corridor, this linear corridor here is a forested wetland. But we have mature forest between the linear forested wetland and the field. So connecting the field with shrubby habitat to the wet forested wetland area would be better for a species like woodcock. So that's a long way of saying that he's going to recommend that we do some sort of harvesting for habitat purposes at some point in the future. Before any of that happens, we need to have better control of the invasive plants. So there's still many years to do that. And my priority is to get the little parking space, fixed, and to get a trail loop on there. We can use some of the trail that's there, and we'll need to create, especially in this upper tier here, he would have us switch it around and figure out a better way to cross the wetland in the back.
Be a challenge.
Well, he knows, right. But in order to stay on
It's
our
easier-
property.
It's easier to cross a little further up, so kind of in the center of the property through that wooded wetland.
Yeah.
It would still require some work, but it's easier than the back corner.
Well, no, right, not in the back corner. He was thinking right in here is where the
Okay.
plan has it.
Yeah.
I can actually pull up that, just scroll to the correct plan here.
Cynthia, you mentioned invasives and honeysuckle. Is there any burning bush up there in the
Yep.
meadow?
Yep.
Because
No,
I
not the
know-
meadow.
I know
But
adjacent
further
to
down.
that
It's-
property, the horse farm it's all along the stone, I think it's a stone wall there. I mean,
Yeah.
loaded with it.
The, is it the Anderson family that owns 83? Is that the right last name?
No.
I think that's right.
Who?
Good, well, there's Parmiter.
Okay, no,
Next- the next one-
she's
Next
our-
one down from Linda.
Oh, yeah, okay, so
I
there's
think-
Linda.
I think it is.
She's just the property that's
She's
just
on-
north.
Well, she's got lots on both sides of Lombard Road, and Fieldstone borders the eastern.
Right.
Borders
I-
both sides. Now that I think about it.
I believe it's Anderson, so I know you can't see this.
Mark Anderson.
Mark Anderson,
but
right.
he only has about 7 or 8 acres.
But the back
But
of
the
that,
back-
back of that property,
that
that's
is
where the burning
loaded
bush
in-
is out of
Oh,
control.
is that where the burn? Okay.
That's where the burning bush is coming in.
Okay.
We have got a huge problem there. So I don't know if you can see, I can just pass my computer on. The yellow is what he proposed, for a trail loop. I don't think that that's exactly where we want it to go. Cause he was actually calling for, there's a spot where, off of Lombard Road, you go in through a not a barway, but a laneway. It's nice stone walls that's right on our property line with the Andersons. The issue with that is there's wetland kind of right next door, so it would be a challenge to kind of get that laneway included into the trail network, even though it would be a nice feature. So it's not exactly that loop, but that's where he's got the crossing of the wetland. Did it turn off?
I just get rid of it, pop up there.
So at any rate, it's still in process. We're making headway. Would love to have a scout help that wants to do
Don't forget about
a trail project. You know, we have a lot on our plate, so I would love to see something get done this year, especially to just get people on, even if we're gonna make changes, you know, even if it's just to finalize the parking area, so people can feel like they can start accessing it, even if we're gonna change where the trail loop ultimately goes.
What do you have to do to finalize the parking area?
I have to, you know, call somebody who's, you know, got a backhoe and can take out the soil and
Yeah, so
put down
clean
a
stuff
better
out.
fill and, you know, it's just make it.
They were gonna be what, 4 parking? 4 to 6?
Yeah, I forget what the size was. There was a size limitation in the conservation restriction. Was it 80 feet or, I forgot exactly.
Yeah.
But it, yeah, no more than 4 for sure. But right now, it's muddy going in, you know, it's muddy
Yeah,
getting
right
into
at the
it, so,
start.
you know, trying to fix that.
Signage?
So then there would be a sign at the parking area, you know, but I wanna get that in first.
And then typically your trail blazing is all volunteer work, right?
Trail creation and trailblazing is all volunteer work, so, yeah,
You have like volunteer days.
yeah, yeah. We would have to figure out a better loop, you know, probably figuring out that back wetland crossing would be the first thing, you know, okay, this is the spot to do, and then you know,
So
you
really-
connect it,
It's really pretty wooded wetland there.
yeah, yep.
Just,
Right.
it'll just require some work.
It's a, you know, a boardwalk
Yeah.
necessary.
Yeah.
Before this property was
Six.
first finished being dealt with and we went on those couple walks last spring, is this kind of the loop that's there, or not even close to
You
that
can
one
s-
that we walked?
You can see the loop that we
I
walked.
made it bigger, sorry.
Yeah, no, that's good. So the loop that we walked, we came in here
Oh, okay.
and we went up to the top of the fields.
Yeah.
And then, I forget, did we go into the back at all? So
A little bit. We
A
went
little
in
bit.
a little bit and then came back.
And so this color dashing right here, these are the existing trails.
Okay.
So we stayed only on existing trails, so we came in from here and went up the hill.
Yeah.
We went around I know we went around the fields, and then I think we went back.
The
Okay.
routes,
And then this, so this is the
Sideways.
There's
lane,
a whole
the
nother
lane.
parking lot? There's an actual
Yeah.
parking,
And
or
the
you're trying to
seats.
make that
Terminate
into a parking?
Um,
So-
Roger suggested the parking there,
Okay.
but the conservation restriction only allows for parking
Yeah.
up here.
Oh, okay.
So he just didn't
yeah,
know that.
cut it.
Okay, so you're gonna make
Yeah.
this,
It-
that muddy spot of like a.
Where's your
It's-
parking on the opposite side of the road?
It's right about where the M or the B is.
Okay, so,
Cut one,
it's
set it
close.
up, set
Yeah,
the
and,
line up.
It's-
and like what we have on this
Yeah.
side is like
50 or
two,
100 meters away.
yeah,
Okay.
Well,
right, and there, I mean, that little parking space is like 2 cars.
unless you can
So this would be, 2 or 3 cars, I mean,
cut
it's
the big one, you
not a big space, but enough to get off the road.
big enough to
Did
put
did you know
seats.
that, the
First couple of years.
town already started work on Lombard Road?
Did
We recommend you pull that.
Yes, I discovered that we were leaving a hike.
Oh, sorry.
And I was, well, fortunately, was able to go by, they had already filled in the culvert, didn't have to go around, but, yeah.
You just go the other way, it's fine. It's just, it's the scenic route.
Just go around.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to give you a quick update that we're still working on things and,
Appreciate it. Just,
yep,
you probably already know this, because of the use of Community Preservation Act funds in our part of the thing, the signage has to
Include that.
include
have
that.
Hubbardston in it, yep.
Well, the use, yeah, the CPA
Covers the
funds.
CPC. But that's down the road, I guess, with the sign.
Yeah, I'm not ready, yeah, I think we need to, we have to have, I don't wanna put a sign up prematurely when we're not ready.
Right.
But thank you for that reminder, it's good.
I thought we'd remind you before somebody reminded us to remind you.
Yeah, no, it's all good, it's all good.
Well, thanks, Cynthia.
Were there any other questions for me?
I don't think so. Anybody else got questions?
Yeah, important question. Preferred implement of destruction for Saturday?
Chainsaw.
Chainsaw or not brush cutter, chainsaw?
Yeah, I think we still have some big stuff to do. We're working on a rail trail. The Land Trust was able to get the license agreement with National Grid in order to build 2.3 miles of rail trail on their land in Ware.
Uh-huh.
And so we've been with volunteers, and Mark has helped before, clear, because saplings of varying sizes have grown up over the past 20 or 30 years. So clearing out the railroad bed. It's very exciting to see it clear. It's, wow. Single track trails in the woods is great. Lots of people can use that, but lots more people want to use nice flat, wide. You can talk to your neighbor or friend or push the baby carriage on the rail trail. So having the different kinds of trails available for people in our region is really critical. We're discovering how important that is. So, like you guys do at Mount Jeff and at Hidden Meadow and Henry's Grove, we'll have those single track trails. In other places, we'll have the rail trail.
And thank you again for sharing this with us. It got us off to a good
Sure.
start with what we're trying to do.
Sure, and you take it and adjust it however
Right.
you add your own weightings and,
Yeah.
yes.
Tim's got a question.
Yeah, for these weightings and whatnot, one of the things I thought about as we look at different parcels, excuse me, we're gonna find that one parcel's gonna come out weighted higher than another parcel. And I'm just wondering if we have to be concerned about that possibly affecting the price of a parcel. And so, you have your own rating system, right? Do you,
The value of a land is all determined based on the appraised value, which is got 100% to do with the current market conditions, not with how you weight it. So the reason why to go, from my point, if I'm understanding the question correctly, the reason why you go through this weighted criteria, because if you have limited time or limited financial resources and you have 2 projects, you want to know which one is a higher priority to do. And so my approach is to just go ahead and do them both, no matter what, right? But that may not be the case for everybody, and so you need to know how you're making judgments about which projects to pursue. Some of them you may come out and one is weighted higher than the other, but for other reasons that you're not gonna find funding for. And so even though this might, for some reason, be a higher weight, if you can't find the funding for it, you might wanna just go ahead and go on do the other one. So there's a lot of practicality that goes into land conservation too. But the actual value of what you're gonna have to pay to buy, to acquire a piece of property or to acquire a conservation restriction is all based on the appraised value. That this, nobody even knows what happens here, and you don't have to share this publicly. You don't have to tell.
I think that's where Tim was going, is if it became public knowledge, would that in turn affect the value of what you wanted to maybe make that price go up for it or something?
People are going to raise the price as much as they can typically, right? I guess there's.
But not likely
there's
as it relates to this
not
criteria.
to the criteria. It's all about how many other competitors might be wanting to acquire any given piece of property and therefore bidding the property price up. You know, one of the things that the land trust and open space committees do, or Concom's do, we get independent appraisals to determine what the market value is. So you try not to be bidding up and bidding and working on things like that. I don't know if I'm answering your question correctly, but
We're always gonna be looking for funding sources anyway. I mean, it's not like we're gonna be able to offer a premium offer on a piece of land, because the grants and such that we would be working with are gonna demand that it, you can't pay more than the appraised value.
That's correct. And I would only pivot on what Mark has said. If there is an extraordinary property that has humongous, all of these criteria, and you're bidding against a developer, I say you go for it. Right? So, but you're basing your decision on how much you're gonna offer based on the weighted criteria. Yeah, you're gonna need to know what that appraised value is, but there might be a reason to go above appraised value in some very unique circumstances. And I don't know what property that might be in Hubbardston, but there may be a property that is just so important. The hole in your donut. You better buy that hole in that donut if you ever have an opportunity. And yes, you may pay a premium for it, but you're gonna be really sorry if you lose that property for conservation purposes, because you've already protected all the way around it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just one example. There have been plenty of times when we haven't gotten a piece of property and I go, should have just offered a little bit more. Or acted faster. It's actually the acting faster that's been the more limiting factor sometimes.
Yeah, and that appraised value gets pretty tricky, because we actually had town funding for some property that was abutting the Malone Road property, but the appraised value came in low. And then so the state wouldn't offer their money. We had it pass through the town, but the appraised value from the realtor came in low, and the state said no. And so they said, we're not gonna give you money for something that's appraised lower, so, because that's not gonna protect the investment that the state makes in it, so. So that actually happened to us just a few years ago.
That was land grant, I believe.
Yeah. Yep. The Jesse had done all the work, and a tremendous amount of work, and we thought everything was great, but then when the appraised value came in, it just didn't work. All right, anything else for Cynthia?
Yeah, just a quick question. what's gonna be going on, or what's the next steps with, your conversation with you, between you and Deb Carey? I mean, what are they looking for, and is there anything that we can do to help that?
Why don't I forward the message that she sent to me to you?
What was the question, Rick? I didn't put here.
There was, Cynthia talked about an initial conversation she had with Deb Carey at Mass Audubon and Princeton Land Trust about, looking at potential, acquisitions using the landscape grant, is that the one?
That's what she
And
said before.
that could involve property in Hubbardston.
Right.
And so I was just asking what the next steps in that
Oh.
were, and is there anything that we can do along those lines?
I think probably the best would be for me to get you that email so that you can see, because she had rattled off a bunch of names in Princeton and, you know, various folks that they were reaching out or trying to reach out to, see if they could get a core. I mean, the idea was, could they get a core
Mm-hmm.
of 500 acres? They kind of had it identified, but these are all landowners that I didn't know.
Some of them were in
So-
Hubbardston.
A few, of them, like Linda Permiter was on the list because her land is
Mhm.
now directly adjacent to, you know, conserved land. Again, it's the parcels that are adjacent to conserved lands that you're
Right.
looking for. Trying to build the network.
Okay. Yeah, send it.
Yeah, I'll send it off to you to keep that rolling.
Great,
Good,
thank you.
okay.
Very
Thank
good.
you guys.
Thanks for
Yep,
coming to see
thanks.
us.
See
Yes,
you.
have a good night.
Me too.
This has been a busy night. The last thing I was sent an email from an avid metal detector in town. I wanted to know if there are any requirements relative to who can go metal detecting where on public lands.
Well,
we have a
the state,
bylaw.
the state forbids it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
DCR land.
But does the town, so the town could have
There
a
is
different.
nothing, in order for us to
So the
enforce
state-
that or have a responsibility, it would have to be in one of the land management plans
Okay.
for Mount Jeff, or, I forget what he was, I think he was asking about Mount Jeff.
Yeah, he was.
There was
Um,
somebody metal detecting right in the parking lot of Mount Jeff over the weekend.
There's something metal detecting up at the rec field when I drove by the other day. It's like, really?
Anyway, it's not currently in the land management plan. Our role is as an agent for the Concom to administer the uses of the lands according to the land management plan.
Mm-hmm.
Since it's not in there, I don't think we have a role. I would punt it back to the Concom.
Okay.
Essentially, you know, what I would say is that he should go to the Concom the same way somebody would approach them for an event
Okay.
on these lands and say, you know, my event is I want to conduct this activity. Do you have any
Because
pro-"
he's digging,
Yeah,
I mean, cause like just to hike on the land, you don't have to go to Concom, and
No.
say, hey, I'm gonna walk on the land today.
No, no.
But metal detecting on DCR land is forbidden. in the
Yeah, he
story.
knew that, well, I think it's the same guy I talked to, and he knew that, and he doesn't do that.
Is it a separate question whether or not he removes anything from the property?
Wow. I guess it would depend on what you're doing, like removing it.
What do you mean, we should issue a warrant for his arrest?
Well, I don't know, I
Because
mean,
he
are
could be
people allowed
removing
to
all those
collect?
empty metal barrels that we've been wanting to have removed
Yeah.
anyways.
Yeah, go down to Malone Road, there's a whole bunch of.
I think that falls into the category of, well, I didn't inhale.
So the short is have him go to the Concom.
I think so.
That sounds good to me. Anybody else got any comments on? All right.
are you down to the end of the agenda?
We're down to asking if there's any other new business, yes.
I have one.
Go, Mike.
30 seconds.
30
It's been a long
seconds?
meeting. So as I data mine and information mine, I don't know if we have relationships with our adjoining towns, but I noticed that Princeton has Bickford Pond Loop Trail. And that's very close. Matter of fact, it's up there where Cynthia was just mentioning.
Yeah.
It virtually,
Isn't that Fish and Game? Or,
Fitchburg Waterworks.
yeah, Fitchburg Water, which they
Yeah.
said you couldn't
We
put
visited it.
trail.
Well, apparently there's been some changes, which I always thought, because our property is very close to there, and we weren't supposed to be up there, but we hunted and fished there as kids. Swam in the pond, or the reservoir. But over half of that trail is in Hubbardston. So everything from the dam, which is right here, from there up around to at least over to here is all in Hubbardston around the reservoir. So, you know, it could get on our, if it is proper that Princeton did this, we could add it to our list of trails, because half of it is in
It's not on,
Hubbardston anyhow.
it's not on town-owned land, is it?
No, it's not on town-owned land, but we have lots of trails that are on other land that's open to the public.
Whose land is it? Pittsburgh
Pittsburgh.
Water?
Fitchburg, well, there's several different, but the bulk of it is Fitchburg Waterworks.
So my understanding, and this is just anecdotal, is that
What's that?
Fitchburg Water didn't mind people
This is-
hiking there, they
this is
just didn't
mine,
want
They
any,
didn't want it to be public,
they didn't
right?
want anything to be published.
Well,
So-
this is published, it's right on the
Yeah,
Princeton
that's right.
open
That's right.
space
Yep, this
on
is
their
right.
website.
Yeah, isn't it North County that had some of that property or something?
Oh, yeah, well, it wasn't,
Because when we walked that,
it
like,
was,
it's
it's
gassy.
adjacent to,
Well, that was discussed, and I think what the gist of what somebody was saying is that it is okay, but they don't want it publicized.
that's what I just said, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And that's just anecdotal, I don't know what the.
I've heard that from others, that.
I mean, we walked
Lombard
back there,
Road.
and it is a nice hike. But it does.
Very nice, yeah.
At least to get there from Hidden Meadow, you have to cross, someone else's property there along the back. a little bit.
I think actually Hidden Meadow is right along here, there's a cable line, an AT&T cable line there.
Yep,
And I
yep,
think
we
that
walked along that.
property.
Yeah, isn't that section owned by North County
That's,
or maintained?
No, theirs
No.
was,
No, there's Zinn's,
Yeah,
there's
sounds
Zinn's.
right.
That's-
Zinn's off of
That's the
either
other- that's the
Rhodes
other
or
one.
Green Road, it's off of Rhodes Road.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah, Zinn's is the one that.
No, the
North County
AT&T,
has a
the
CR.
AT&T
Okay,
corridor is
yeah.
just a
And-
easement.
and
from-
they-
Right, no, it's not, yeah.
Hike it,
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
have trails.
But part of it's on Fitchburg Waterworks, and part of
Yeah.
it's on Kerry's land,
Yeah.
That's
Kerry
the one I-
Smith, I
That's
think.
the one I was thinking.
Yeah,
of.
this private land that's shown there,
Yeah.
that's Kerry Smith's property.
Okay, that's what I was thinking of.
so what was your request of us, Mike, or?
Just to inform you, was anyone aware of this? That's it, you know, and, it's our neighboring town, their open space, they're advertising something that is, in Hubbardston, actually, so just wanted to make you aware.
Do you think it was a recent posting, or has that been there for a long time? Or is
I
it just
don't.
new to you, maybe?
Well, I think this whole concept is kinda new.
Yeah.
That, because before, everybody knew, well, we used to get chased out of there as kids and as adults, by the Fitchburg Waterworks people. And so, I know that for a fact. It's not secondhand information. But this was new to me, finding it posted.
Yeah.
And a number of people that are on the Lombard Road, which would be your access to much of this, in Hubbardston that is, they were unaware of it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
You're welcome.
Anything else? Any other new business? No? Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Are we we gonna go with Wednesday or Thursday next?
Wednesday.
Go back to Monday.
Where's the calendar?
What are we in now? We're in March.
Tomorrow's April 1st, right?
Yeah. Playing tricks,
No. Every day is.
So last Wednesday is the 27th of April.
So we're doing Wednesday again then?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, we only moved it to Thursday just
For-
because of
for
Cynthia.
So Wednesday, the 27th.
Wednesday, the 27th.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Hey.
Aye.
Alrighty.
That's quite a meeting, folks.